What's going on? Big A, the Manky Geek, coming at you with another video. And I just saw Jessica Jones recently, in fact, a few days back, when it actually got released on International Women's Day. I I watched it. I watched 6 episodes, and the next day I watched the remaining 7. And overall, I mean, I've got to say, I was pretty disappointed. Like, I had high hopes for it. I didn't watch any of the trailers apart from kind of like some of the early ones, but the most recent ones I didn't watch because I wanted to be entirely surprised. And it just doesn't cut it in comparison to the first season. I mean, the first season you had a great villain in the Purple Man, played by David Tennant, and it was just so well done all throughout the series. And I was on board. I was on board with the character. I was on board with Luke Cage being introduced. I was on board with pretty much everything. Didn't care that it was a female lead. Don't care. Never have cared. As long as it's a good story, I'm in. I'm on board. That's all that matters to me. And season 1 it didn't have the greatest of action, but it made sense because Jessica Jones is just a detective who was in an accident when she was a kid. And you know, she happens to have superpowers, but she hasn't bothered training. She can throw a punch and a kick, and she can beat people up, but she's no martial artist. So I never expected any great action from it, although I did expect the occasional kind of show of strength, which it did do, and season 1 was fine for that. But when we get to season 2, my expectations were so much higher than that of season 1 that season 2 let me down a fair bit. So the first 6 episodes, and obviously this is going to be spoilers, so if you don't want to have spoilers revealed to you, then you need to go away and come back later once you've seen the show and watch this video if you want, and you can leave a comment if you agree or disagree. But yeah, season 2 kind of kicks off with a whole investigation into IGH, and we get to see kind of there's 20 days missing from like Jessica's life, which she doesn't remember, and all this kind of stuff. And Trish is investigating into that a little bit here and there. And essentially it turns out that people who have been altered by IGH are being hunted down and killed. And that in itself is a bit blah, because there's not really a series villain, so to speak. And it turns out that the person who's hunting down and killing people altered by IGH is in fact Jessica's mum. Sorry, Jessica's mom, because this is American. And it's and just because it's a mum, what ends up happening is, although her mum's kind of going around killing people, at first she's like, "Oh, you're not my mum, blah blah. You're something else. You're something different. Yada yada yada." But then slowly she kind of becomes to like accept the fact that that is actually her mum. And that's not a villain. It's an interesting story, but it's not a villain, and it won't compare to a story between a hero and a villain. It's just not what I expected from the show. I did expect Purple Man to be in it again, and he is. But they did it a bit different. Like, he doesn't come in until like, I'm sure it's like episode 11. And he's inside Jessica's mind, and like there's things going on with her, and he's telling her how like crap she's doing and all this kind of business. And that stuff was good, but it's only for like 1 episode, if I remember correctly. What I feel they should have done with that is kind of had him from the beginning, popping up here and there, appearing in scenes, not saying anything, but then you know he's there. And then eventually, as things got worse and worse throughout the show, he then begins to converse with Jessica more. I think that would have been great if they established that from the beginning onwards, rather than just having it in that 1 episode, because it just felt like a cheap gimmick. They just could have done so much more with it. It's similar to that thing that they did in Arkham Knight, where the Joker shows up and he begins to taunt like Bruce Wayne throughout the entire game, and just show up at random points and point out things that, you know, Batman's doing wrong or could have done better, you know, trying to get a reaction out of him. That kind of thing, when done right and done like over longer periods, is actually kind of good because it's kind of like the character's internal kind of thoughts and conflicts, and it's their internal monologue, but you've got an antagonist there within the person. And also it's a little bit like Farscape, as to how you had John Crichton and Scorpius, and Scorpius was inside John Crichton's mind, and he'd always pop up every now and again to really get on his bloody nerves. And that idea, I like that. They should have ran with that from the get-go, but unfortunately they didn't. So yeah, the series doesn't have a villain, and that's one of its major problems. All the other side characters, they actually have interesting stories. Kind of, I think, thinking about it, I enjoyed the side character stories more than I enjoyed Jessica's main story, because like I said, there wasn't a villain. It was all just discovery. It was all kind of like discovering parts of a backstory which she wasn't aware of. And yeah, it just didn't lead to much. There wasn't much of a payoff. There wasn't much of a build up. It was just something that I really couldn't get behind Jessica in any kind of way, because there was a struggle of sorts, but it's not the kind of struggle that I wanted from this show. I'm sure they could have done a better job. I mean, that's not to say it's not written well or anything like that, but it didn't have my attention throughout the whole thing, unfortunately. And I really like the Netflix Marvel shows. I really like Daredevil season 1 and 2. I actually felt in some ways season 2 of Daredevil was better. And also, Daredevil had like loads of villains in it. Like you've got the Hand, you've got Wilson Fisk. You also had kind of Elektra to a degree, is also a villain, although more, I guess she starts off kind of like a bit anti-hero and then becomes villain pretty much by the end of it. But she does cause kind of a lot of trouble, a lot of conflict in Matt's life, so I would count her as a villain. Also, you've got the Punisher as well. He's pretty much a villain from the beginning, although he does evolve into something else as well. So there's like Daredevil season 2 is a great example as to how you can up the ante with villains, and you know, not turn it into a Batman Returns or a Spider-Man 3 affair. Well, no, Batman Forever or Spider-Man 3 affair, where there's just too many villains and you're just like, what? Why is there so many? In fact, Batman Forever doesn't even have that many villains. It's Batman and Robin that has too many when you got Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, and Bane. But it's not legit Bane. It's dumb goon Bane. But yeah, getting off topic. Anyway, Jessica Jones. Yeah, so Marvel shows I really like. The Netflix shows. Luke Cage had a pretty good villain, although he wasn't revealed. The villain, like in this season of Jessica Jones, the villain isn't revealed for quite a while. It's only much later, like around halfway through, when you actually get the reveal of who the villain is. And Luke Cage did a similar thing with Diamondback. But when you find out who Diamondback is, they set up such a kind of like cloak and dagger mystique about Diamondback, that when you get up to kind of the reveal as to who Diamondback is and as to how he's connected to Luke Cage, it's a big revelation. And then he's kind of in it fully for like the rest of the series until pretty much the end. And that's the difference. I mean, you've got this killer, but there's no kind of mystique or build up as to who the killer was. And yeah, so when it's revealed, it's just meh. It's just so meh. And I feel bad because like, it didn't have to be this way. And it sucks because I like everyone in this show as well. I think everyone did a really good job, like acting wise and whatnot. And like I said, some of the side characters have great stories. Like Trish has a really interesting story. And finding out more about who she used to be before she had her radio show, and some of the stuff that happened to her when she was younger, and that I thought it was interesting. It was like, okay, that explains as to probably why she has kind of the substance abuse thing going on and whatnot. And then she became clean, and then what happens with her was pretty good, and she didn't want to feel helpless anymore. So, you know, she was taking that inhaler and whatnot that would give her strength and all this kind of stuff and like heighten her abilities. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was one of the kind of like high points for this show for me, because I thought that was a really great story that was implemented extremely well. I mean, other than that, I mean, if they do a season 3, I just hope, I just hope they just do things a bit better. It was just, I don't know. I don't know if I'm the only one, but it was just a disappointment for me because I just think they created this great thing with season 1, and they had potential to kind of throw that thing into orbit and be absolutely brilliant and blow everyone away. Whereas what we got here felt maybe they were trying to do something different and it didn't really work out. But I've not been that bored for a while. Like, I felt like the first 6 episodes were largely pointless to me. I reckon this whole thing could have been done in seven episodes, if that. I didn't feel like there was a lot. I felt there was a lot of kind of coasting. Yeah, I just feel like there was a lot of coasting and not getting to the point sooner when they could have. I do think there were some good moments in there. The Wizard was one good moment. Because you assume he's a madman, but he's not a madman. He can actually move that fast, although he is quite large. And the whole kind of thing with the superintendent of Jessica's building. Like, I knew that was going to happen. That relationship was going to happen. Or they'd have some kind of, you know, adult relations. But again, I don't think a lot was done with it. Because one minute he's like, oh, I don't like supers. And then after she saves his son, that kind of changes instantly. And then one night they get it on and it's just like, what? How can he change his mind on that so quick? How can, like, one minute he's discriminatory, one minute he's discriminatory of supers, powered people, and then the next he's not. And it's just kind of like, surely there'd need to be quite an extended period of time for someone to change their mind about that. You know what I mean? You can't go from being against and then being for like that instantly. You'd still have some prejudice there, which you need to get rid of, which takes time. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else, man. Yeah, I just want season 3 to be good. I mean, I'm hoping season 3 of Daredevil, oh man, I'm hoping that's good. I'm really worried because I didn't like the way they kind of ended the Defenders with what they did with Daredevil. I was a bit like, eh. But I'm looking forward to Luke Cage. That's up next. That's on June 22nd. There's a new season of Iron Fist coming at some point, and I just hope the martial arts is better, and I hope they take some influence of like 70s martial arts films and actually put that in the show. That would be great as well. But yeah, I'm talking about other stuff. I should be talking about Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones, if I had to rate it out of 5, let's say, for example, if season 1 was a 5, which I actually don't think it is a 5, I think it's more of a 4 or 4.5, then I'd have to rate season 2 a 1.5 or 2, because I was literally that bored. Like, I literally was. But yeah, this is me rambling about Jessica Jones over now. So you can like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Let me know as to what you thought of Jessica Jones. Stick around and watch another video if you want. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.